All right, so here I did my project on the Chinese surveillance state. Now, first I'll talk about what is it. What it is it's a network monitoring system used by the Chinese Communist Party, otherwise known as the CCP, is how I'll mostly be referring to them through this presentation. It's primarily conducted through the government, although non-publicized corporate surveillance in connection with the Chinese government has been speculated to occur. China monitors its citizens through the internet, cameras, as well as other digital technologies, which I might briefly go over here in this presentation. And the mass surveillance in China is closely related to its social credit system. And what the social credit system is a national reputation system being developed by the CCP. The Social Credit Initiative calls for establishments of a unified record system for individuals, businesses, and the government to be tracked and evaluated for trustworthiness. So basically, checks for criminals and people of ill reputation. So basically, if you got good street cred, you're good to go. If you don't do anything illegal, then you shouldn't have a problem. All right, next I'll talk about the origin of how all this started. It did start after the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949 by Mao Zedong. Um, mass surveillance in China emerged in the Maoist era after the forming of it in 1949, as I just said. Mao invented this mechanism of control that encompassed the entire nation and its people in order to strengthen the power of his newly founded government. Probably scared to have somebody overthrow him, so why not instill as much power as you possibly can? In the early years, when the technology was relatively undeveloped in China, the mass surveillance was realized through giving information by word of mouth, essentially. Chinese people kept a watchful eye on one another and reported inappropriate behaviors that infringed upon the dominant social ideals of the time. I'm sure that happened a lot. People were probably very scared back then. So the pros of having mass surveillance, the first would be facial recognition. China's facial recognition is springing to new heights. Um, as almost everything you do in China can be done with facial recognition, like buying groceries in a grocery store. You can have your bank account information linked to your facial scan and purchase things without even needing to use money or a card, which is pretty neat. It also helps in large crowds of people. It helps track down criminals or wrongdoers. Citizen safety. Uh, these surveillance cameras can protect citizens from losing items. Most importantly, would be terrorist attacks in such a populated country like China. It can stop suspected criminals from committing more crimes, which I guess is related to terrorist attacks. It can shut down crime syndicates like human trafficking and other exploitations that operate in major urban centers. Law enforcement would be able to bust these rings and bring an end to such horrible actions. The fourth would be curbing police brutality because with all these cameras around, officers would know that their every action is being recorded and may become grounds for prosecution, and they will obviously be thinking twice now before stepping over the line. Their cons for this, in my opinion, heavily outweigh the pros. Racial profiling and stereotypes is a big, big problem over there right now. Racial, ethnic, or religious profiling is prevalent in any form of extended observation, either to focus on individuals. The Uyghurs are a minority group over there, which I'll cover in a little bit. They are heavily oppressed right now by the Chinese government. The social credit system, here's where there are flaws in the social credit system. Say somebody litters or cuts the queue or is having an argument with somebody. Um, they would be and could be penalized for such interactions. And there's something that they have over there. It's like a three strike rule for your credit system. So essentially, if you get caught doing anything that's not deemed safe or smart over there, according to the government, you will receive a strike, and you don't want to get those strikes. These last two kind of go hand in hand. Your every move is seen, and there's no privacy. Basically, once you step out your front door, leaving your house, you are under surveillance. There is no getting away from it. From the moment you leave to the moment you go back inside, there's no privacy. The only privacy you have is inside your own home. And sometimes some people can't even get that. So everything you do is being watched. So here I'll talk about the Uyghurs of China. They are an oppressed group of minorities in China. Um, Current Chinese minority policy is based on affirmative action and has reinforced a Uyghur ethnic identity that is distinct from the Han population. However, Human Rights Watch describes a multi-tiered system of surveillance, control, and suppression of religious activity that goes on over there, perpetrated by state authorities. It is estimated that over 100,000 Uyghurs are currently being held in re-education camps, and far-reaching surveillance operations using drones are in operation. I'll go over the re-education camps in a minute. There is a long history between the Uyghurs of China and the Chinese people of China, I guess. In general, the Uyghurs and the mostly Han government disagree on which group has a greater historical claim to the region that they're in, where all the unrest is right now, the Xinjiang region. Uyghurs believe that their ancestors were indigenous to this area, but government policy considers present-day Xinjiang to have belonged to China since around 200 BC during Han Dynasty. And according to the Chinese policy, Uyghurs are classified as a national minority. They are no more indigenous to Xinjiang than the Han and have no special rights to the land under the law. And here are the re-education camps. The re-education camps are essentially internment camps operated by the CCP committee. Human Rights Watch claims that there have been, excuse me, that they have been used to indoctrinate Uyghurs and other Muslims since 2017 as part of a people's war on terror because they're deemed terrorists by the Chinese government based on actions that have happened many, many times over, terrorist actions committed by the Uyghurs. The camps have been criticized by many countries and human rights organizations for alleged human rights abuses and mistreatment, with some even alleging genocide. But I'm sure the Chinese government has no say in that, and I'm sure if they do have a say, they say that nothing is going on. Here is a picture of Uyghurs in an internment camp or re-education camp. It's not very high quality, it's the best one I could find. Um, and to me, this doesn't really look like a re-education center. This looks more like an internment. It looks like prison. It looks like it gives me kind of, it says internment camp. It kind of gives me those Holocaust vibes. That's, it's terrible. And now, where is all of this surveillance in China heading? Well, right now, as of the latest data I could find, in 2018, there are 170 million estimated cameras in China surveying its people, and by the end of 2021, so next year, there will be 570 million cameras in place in major cities around China. So take that as you will. That's quite disturbing. Claims that the additional cameras are for the best interest of keeping the citizens safe, but based on prior examples, the cameras are mostly used for watching suspicious peoples that the government will deem unsafe, like Uyghurs or people who leave the country for long periods of time or frequently are deemed unsafe. The surveillance in China is only going to grow, and they tell you that if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to fear. So as long as you're following the law and not doing anything suspicious, you should be good to go. That is my presentation on Chinese surveillance state.